Now when we look at expenses, personnel costs are below budget, and part of the reason for that is last spring when two teachers, Ms. Weingart and then had accepted a position in Florida, and then C-Rob, Cirrus then took the position down at Prince of Peace, that rather than bringing in two full-time people, what we did is Mrs. Ackerman came in at the junior high level, and then Amanda Newman, who had been half-time here and half-time in Fremont, she went full-time as the homeroom teacher in 7th. So all the way around, we essentially reduced the staff a little bit, but increased the specialists so that we could make sure that we were covering all of the academic areas that we needed to with the right people. Okay? So our personnel costs are lower because two whole positions changed, and we did something a little different with that. So as you see, our administrative costs were lower in the first half of the year. The mortgage was, as you know, pretty much that's a payment, so it goes out as it's billed to. The curriculum and activity expenses for the schools, preschool through 8th grade, is about $20,000 less than what we had budgeted for so far. Then all other ministries are running about $10,000 less, and tuition support, as you can see, is a couple $1,000s more. So that means that tuition support will be about $200,000 in grants and aid for families that are in our school by the time we're done. I'm pointing that out because that is what the Hope Scholarship campaign is for. The goal for that $200,000 is, again, going back to that best practices with a sustainable strategy. In order to scholarship and give financial aid, we need to be drawing from money that exists, as opposed to finding ways to absorb it by not having expenses elsewhere. And, you know, with the in the development of the school, those funds weren't established from the beginning. And so we're really starting from zero to build that up. But I can tell you from the perspective of non-public schools, whether you're talking about preschools all the way through universities who are successful, the endowments and scholarship funds are key in weathering storms like the ones that we've come through. Okay? So promoting the Hope Scholarship campaign in the congregation and among our school families will continue to expand into the community among alumni and be going forward, an ongoing, something that people can contribute to. And I think it would be appropriate for me to let you know, to let the world know, when we go back to personal, social, academic excellence, that one of the things that was very close to Les Knott's heart. Les Knott was a founding member of this congregation. He's the man whom the park is named after. He passed away this past winter. And they made a sizable contribution to the Hope Scholarship Fund from his estate, because they wanted to make an investment in your children and their presence in the Livermore community because of being a part of our Savior. Then as I finish off, the facilities number at $191,000 compared to a budget of $149,000. To say it simply, facility expenses were front-loaded. So there were a number of things that we needed to catch up on, and whether it was carpeting in certain areas or flooring repairs and other things like that that we paid out earlier in the year. We project, as we get through the balance of the next 6 months, that number, what we budgeted for facilities, will come in under budget. It's not going to continue running at that pace over budget. So total operating expenses at 1.83 instead of 1.84. And if you remember the number from the 1.7, you know where this is going next, is that if you look at total income and total expense, that puts us at about $100,000, a little over $100,000 over in expenses from income. And the last line is just a reminder that we began the year with $145,000 to the good. So in making sure, if you hadn't been here in the past or weren't part of the loan restructuring, the whole 36-month plan was intended to free up cash so that we didn't have the mortgage obligation for the education mission, and we're able to use that money to do this, to make sure that we shored up faculty and staff, that we did the marketing and things we needed to do to give families time to figure out their long-term commitment to our Savior. And so we are running on this budget in a deficit budget, but it's covered by money that's in the bank. And going back then again to the two sources we need to offset that negative cash flow. The one is the Hope Scholarship Campaign. And so whether it's through fundraising or coming to the Sweetheart Dinner Dance on the 11th or making a direct contribution or getting others to, can anyone think of the other thing that all of us can participate in that can change the tuition income, to change the deficit?
Market to our friends.
Yeah, the market to your friends. It's about telling everybody about the intersection of faith and excellence, because enrollment is the other variable in this plan. It's like any other organization, there is an economy of scale. We can hold down tuition costs if we can raise up the student body or other sources of income, okay? So the balance of how we do this is, catching up to my slides, is then put into the tuition calculation process. So as all of you know, and now I'm on the front page of your packet, our tuition was published just before we came back to school. Give everyone an opportunity to see what we're seeing that it's going to cost. And the financial cohort that was designed for us to have this sustainable strategy called for a higher tuition increase than the one that we had. And we didn't go all the way to that tuition increase because we all know that the economy is still not it's just not robust, bottom line. Number two, I also know from being part of the School Leadership Institute, we've been gathering about once every 2 months and trying to sort out what's coming next for non-public schools. And mourning how many private ones have shut down. It's astounding how many have closed. And if you hadn't heard about Cardin West not accepting enrollment for next year, they're right now looking at reorganization as an example of a sister school that is also just trying to make sense out of this, okay? The numbers you have in your hand, where you see our Savior's tuition figures, and then on the rest of the sheet, the best knowledge we have of what other non-public schools are charging, two things should stand out to you, okay? One is that St. Michael's is not on here. They're not going to publish from the information we got, that information until February 1. I can say, unless something changes that I missed, I'm pretty confident their tuition will be lower than ours. Historically, it has been. I know they're working with a different financial model. And so that being what it is, I'm sure that will hold true. Please notice this is for your benefit as well as those friends, neighbors, and others that you might be advocating for our Savior. Please note that in our new way of publishing the cost, we were very intentional in trying to be very inclusive in tuition so that you didn't have as many over and above extra fees. And you'll notice that with several of the other schools, their tuition still has another fee in addition to that. So that goes into the grand total. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because your deposit on tuition is a deposit on tuition. You get, and as you've experienced it, you know you get that credited back towards that total dollar amount. And in the other schools, that's not the case. Those are add-on fees. So that puts us basically in the neighborhood of Sunset, as you can see here, would be the least expensive option for someone in this community. And my guess is St. Michael's would be next, and then our Savior, and then the rest of these schools follow after our Savior. Okay? I also want to point out on the front page that grades 7 and 8, at 96, 93, their tuition is $85.90, like the grade 6, with the outdoor education expense on top of it. That's the difference, okay?
And where's that outdoor education was taken to?
Outdoor education is Yosemite and Catalina. Okay. So for those of you who are a little further removed from those two events for junior high, those are and Catalina is 8th grade, and Yosemite is 7th grade. And
Per week.
Yeah, Monday through Friday.
for a week, but if parents who are willing to pay extra, Mr. Mejia will stay there for 2 weeks.
No, he won't.
Oh no, that's going to be on YouTube.
I'll edit that out. So I had a question for that. Like 2 years ago, it was brought up a potential of Washington D.C.
Of
instead
Washington, D.C.
So you are not doing that at this point.
No one has pursued changing over to Washington, D.C. And for those who hadn't heard that before, I know that I've experienced the D.C. trip with several of my sons, and I know I was in the East, so it was a little, not quite as involved, but you know, it's still an expense. And I know when we talked about going over to D.C., that would include a strategy to have more time in preparation for covering the expense of that, or making it an optional trip, but the idea is on the table, but we have not done anything to move in that direction. Okay. Any other questions on the tuition process and these numbers you're looking at? Okay, good. Now, in addition to increasing enrollment to make it affordable for you in the present and going into the future, we want to be sure that every single family, either already re-enrolling or new enrolling, knows that financial aid is available preschool through 8th grade. So we do not want children who are really belong here in our state here to not come here simply because there were some financial obstacles we never had the chance to talk about. We have, like every other university or private school, we have a financial aid process. Please encourage people to go through it and let us see what we can do to make it work. In addition to that, there are other ways that you can reduce your cost. One of them is the sibling discount. So you have sibling discounts for the upper school, the lower school, and the preschool. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the sibling discount is $650 for
elementary.
For the elementary and middle school.
Right.
And for preschool?
It's $325.
It's $325. So you can look at the numbers on those two. And there also is a member and discount. So members receive an $800 discount. So they would choose between sibling and or congregation membership, which would be most beneficial to them. Then, Angela?
I didn't know if you were going to keep going. I just wanted to remind you of the pay in advance discount of 3%.
Oh, if you do, you lump sum.
Right, so now we're getting into the other ways you can save money. If you pay up front, if you have a way to do that, there's a 3% discount for payment in the beginning. I know one of the topics we have in School Leadership Institute is once upon a time, not all that long ago, home equity was really a significant source for private education. And we know that that doesn't exist. However, if you have other tools that might, look at the numbers, make it more effective, that's one way. Another way I can't emphasize enough, I know that I'm not speaking out of school, no pun intended, but St. Michael's, you are required to buy $3,000 worth of script. And here, it's purely voluntary, but you get a direct benefit from it. So we have a little different philosophical approach to that based on our understanding of what we can do. And I can say you have no limit as to how much script. Well, someone might limit you on how much script you can buy for yourself, or again, we've had people that for coworkers, friends, and family, they take orders every month and they get the direct benefit of it. It reduces their actual cost of education. We want to make sure if you don't have one, also a voucher for referrals. And Angela has those with her tonight, so if you had them and had it before and don't remember where it is, it's a significant discount that's applied once we're back in school towards an actual payment towards your tuition. So a couple more people in the classroom and there's another benefit. Tuition process, assistance, ways to reduce. Jane?
Are there options available if someone cannot come up with the $500 right now and they want to re-enroll?
If you do not have the $500 up front deposit on tuition, yes, please contact us to make arrangements for getting that taken care of over a longer period of time. We want to work with you to make that happen without it being what's standing in the way.